Podcast Amsterdam.
Middlebare Mashup. It's Margaret's guide to the Middlebare process here in the Netherlands. And so far, we've looked at the different varieties of schools that are available according to the sort of ability and interests of the child, academic level and such. And we've looked at the advice, which comes from the teachers, which recommends what level of school the child should be considering. And Margaret's also shared a couple of her experiences of looking into schools or individually, particularly in this time of Corona, and how these visits are happening online in a safe way. So this week we're going to focus on the lottery system. We're going to take a fresh look at another couple of schools, and Margaret's also got a bit of information on a current documentary out there called Klassen, which happens to also be focusing on this subject. So, Margaret.
Okay, so yeah, like I said, we're going to look at the lottery system, the loting system in Amsterdam. We're going to look at a few schools that we have checked out in the past week or so, and then a quick review of the Klassen documentary on NPO.
Yeah, great.
Which is follows a few children in Amsterdam Noord around this whole process. Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay. So the lottery system then, what's all this?
What's all that about?
Yeah. Well, is it as fun as it sounds?
No, it's not fun. It's torture. It's hell, actually. A friend of mine messaged me the other day and she said, I find this, and she's Dutch, by the way, and she said, I just find this whole experience basically a hell. But we have to go through it. So this is, okay, so I'll just give kind of an explanation of how the lottery system works here in Amsterdam. It's different in some places, or most places actually in the Netherlands don't have a lottery system, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's just in the cities where there are not enough desired places for the children, right? There are enough overall places, school places, but not enough in the popular schools, basically. So they have to have a lottery.
Got it.
They have a lottery in Haarlem as well, and I'm sure in another city. But most places do not have a lottery. You just go to your local, you pick between your local few schools. Yeah. Okay, so the lottery system here. So basically, I hear hands in the background.
Yes. That's Cathy's child. Yeah.
Okay, so the lottery system. So each child basically is given a random number.
Okay.
So they're assigned a random number by the algorithm. They use this algorithm. I think apparently it's based on the New York algorithm, New York City school algorithm, I think. But so each child is given a random number. When your number comes out, so basically child number one gets their first choice.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
There are approximately, just to give you some numbers, last year there were 7,670 children in the lottery. Okay.
7,670.
70, yeah. And there were 9,976 places available. So plenty of places, ostensibly in the school system here in Amsterdam. But child number one gets given their first number. So they're number one in the lottery. So child number one gets their first choice, obviously, because they're the first one out of the hat, if you like, and they get their choice of. So they have already submitted their list of schools, their desired schools. Remember, we talked about that last week. So for HAVO and VWO, you submit 12. So we'll go with the HAVO child. So the HAVO child, then the number one child gets their number one choice. Then it goes to the number two child, so then number two probably will get their number one choice as well, and on it goes. So if all the available places are gone out of school by the time it comes to maybe number 50, or well, probably wouldn't be, say number 100 comes out of the hat, that child. And if all the kids beforehand have picked like a particular school, so then there'd be no places left possibly at that school. Then it goes to their second choice. And if the second choice is also full, then it goes to their third choice. And that's how it kind of goes. So it basically takes each number, looks at that number, that child's list, and goes down the list until it finds a school that has a place for them.
Yes.
That's how it works.
I see.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I totally get that. I mean, it's sort of... It's kind of random, but not random, isn't it? If your child, 6,090,
exactly.
You are inevitably going to get one of your least favourite choices.
Yes. So the lower your number, so like, if you have number 1, if you have number 80, 100, 200, the higher your chance. Like, you're very likely to get your top choice, basically.
And your number, or the child or the parents, they know this number?
No.
No.
Okay. Nobody knows.
All right.
Nobody knows until they literally get the email into their inbox.
I see.
A couple of days after the lottery is held.
Yeah.
I'll explain why it's a couple of days in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
But no, so nobody knows anything. You do know your lottery number, though. So that comes in the email as well. You find out afterwards.
Yeah.
So basically, the lower your number, the higher your chance of getting your top choice, or one of your top choices.
Yes.
And then the opposite is true also if you have a high number. So if you have, like I said last year, there was 7,670 kids in the lottery. If you happen to get number 7,000, if that was your number assigned to you, then you were probably going to get your 10th or 11th or 12th choice on the list.
I mean, yes. Okay.
Oh, that's tough. So, if you have a high number, the chances are definitely your top 5 schools are gone. They're already full.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll be assigned a school at the end of your list.
Yeah.
So there are popular schools in Amsterdam, and then there are schools that are less popular.
Mm-hmm.
But with this list, it's really important that you fill out the list in entirety.
Yeah.
You have to list 12 schools.
Yes.
And if you list your 12 schools, you're guaranteed a place at one of those 12 schools.
Got it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have a full list, then the guarantee is off, basically. So if you only put in 10 or 8, then there's no guarantee at all. So then, if you do not get a place, if the lottery does not assign you a place at your top 12 or at the 12 schools, so if you're one of the really high numbers, that guarantee is in place. And OSFO is a secondary school council.
Yeah.
And the city council, they work together and they create extra places between the popular schools.
Right.
The schools on those kids' list. So after they do the lottery, they have a couple of days before they tell everybody.
Yep.
And within those 2 or 3 days, the city council and OSFO talk among themselves with the schools and say, okay, where can we create a couple of extra places for these kids? And then they create the places. And so then that's how they manage the guarantee.
Okay.
Guarantee is only in place, actually, I think, since last year. Prior to that, there was no guarantee. So you
could list 12 schools and still not end up with one of the schools that you'd chosen. As was the case a couple of years ago.
Yes, what happened then was that meant you were ausgeloot. I think I'm saying it right. That means like you were just out of the lottery. And then what they did was basically OSFO and the gemeente, the council, were scrambling, kind of trying to negotiate with schools and try and figure out where could they put a child, and there was court cases about it and stuff like that. So it was very dramatic. So then in the end they decided, okay, we'll actually make a guarantee so that it's much more organised and structured.
Yeah, okay. It demands a certain degree of flexibility from the schools, I suppose, or unless they factor it in from the beginning in terms of, normally they would say that their maximum capacity was 30 kids, for example, and then at this stage with the council, they would then say, well, all right, we can squeeze in another 2 students if that's all that they need to do in order to satisfy everybody and deliver the guarantee.
Yeah, I think pretty much it's like that now. But it doesn't mean that everybody who doesn't get their top 12 then gets a place in their number 1.
No.
It totally depends. So there's a lot of kind of stuff going on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So last year, 32 extra places were created. So there was 32 kids.
This is in Amsterdam, sorry.
Yeah, I'm only talking about Amsterdam.
Yeah.
So last year there were only 32. There were 32 kids who did not get their place at their 12 schools. So they were facilitated, or whatever the word is. Anyway, they were placed. They were placed within a few days. And then everybody gets their email in, and so that's kind of how it goes. So it's kind of like a lottery, and then there's a matching system. So the lottery is kind of like, that's your number, and then they match you with the schools on your list, and they go down through your list and basically keep going until there's a place there for you.
Yeah. And is there any room for, sorry if I'm jumping the gun.
Go ahead.
But say, for example, you end up being allotted your 12th school.
That's tough.
That's just it. There's no recall. There's no kind of, but...
No. So, no, I know exactly what
just
you mean.
no.
I'm sure every parent who gets to 12, they're kind of going, but surely we can do something about this. But what you can do, there's nothing you can do really about the lottery. The lottery has happened and the school place, it's been assigned. But like, it is also possible then to approach the school, I suppose, the school maybe that you really want to move to. Mm-hmm. But you can do it yourself individually. And maybe they'll have a place, in second year, for example.
Right. Yes.
But there's no way you're going to be. You can't do that. I know a friend who tried to. Her child got maybe, I can't remember exactly, 8th place or 10th place. So, and he really wanted to go to somewhere else. So anyway, she tried, but there's just no movement there. So the option that is presented is, well, look, come back to us maybe in second year, because if somebody moves to another school in second year, then he could have his place. But often by then, inevitably, kids like their school anyway. Most kids like where they are, and they're just happy there. They've made friends. So they don't generally probably want to move anyway after second year. No,
I can imagine.
But it's a tough system. It's also very fair. It's fair because it's so random.
Yes, and we talked last when we were talking about the Advies last week and the variety of the schools. Actually, there is within the system a way to tailor it quite personally to the child. So, which is very good. But it also comes with this quite severe kind of parameters to it. So it's fascinating kind of system. It's so very different to what I'm familiar with from back in the UK.
Totally different. So, for example, this is kind of interesting. So last year, in 2020, 80.9% of children got their first choice. So 4 in 5 kids got their first choice last year. But the year before that, it was 83.5. The year before that, it was 86.9. So it's worse than it was. It started, I think, in 2016, this lottery. Mm-hmm. And it's been getting worse, basically. And last year, 96.5 children got their top 5 choices, within their top 5 choice. So 96%.
Well,
that sounds
that's very respectable, isn't it? Yeah.
It's good if you like, if you really have 5 schools that you like. And generally, just from our experience, my kids would have probably been happy at any of their top 5 choices. Yeah. Or happy if that was the result that they got. Both of them actually got their number 1 choice in the lottery. So it was 96 last year, but the year before it was 98%, and the year before that it was 99%. Okay. Top 5.
Yeah, so it's potentially it can be better. It's just even. Yeah. It's just you don't know what year you're in.
Yeah, I think there may have been more children in the lottery last year. Just at the top of my head, I think there were more kids.
So that's just down to.
Well, I think that was one reason. So the other thing is around the Advies. Do you remember, I think last week I mentioned when the kids were to get their Advies? Well, as ever, everything is changing here all the time because of new regulations and everything. Yeah. So I think last week I said that the Advies had to be given to the child by the 1st of February.
Yep.
And then it was moved, I think later that day it was moved to the 17th of February.
Wow.
And now the Advies date is the 1st of March.
Wow, that's quite a serious delay.
Yeah, exactly. So the schools now have an extra month to hand out their Advies, because I think some schools brought back their Group A children for morning teaching since January, and then carried out their CETO-toots, the 2-week CETO-toots. Our school did that. But some schools didn't bring the kids back, and they're just going to start going back now, and they still have to do their CETO-toots. So they want to teach the kids for a couple of weeks before they do the testing. So that's why they've extended it by basically a month to give more leeway and give the schools take the pressure off. Yeah. Basically.
Okay. So they can't give the Advies without the testing.
Yeah.
But what's the impact on the submission of the list of the 12 schools?
Well,
What's the order of play?
Actually, so far there isn't really. So at the moment, the registration period for the schools is when you have to, the period of time that you have to hand in your list of 12 is between the 8th and the 19th of March. So that's your registration period. Okay. So you have 2 weeks. Basically, yeah. That's
to submit it, but you're already starting with your research, so it shouldn't come. Yeah. You shouldn't have 2 weeks to look at 12 schools or more, should you?
No, you can start now. I mean,
because that's going on now.
Yeah, and it's actually going to go on until into March. Actually, the schools, the online stuff.
Oh, right,
and yeah, so it's going to go on basically up to the very last day of the 8th, because we're registered for something on the 8th. Yeah, so
okay.
It's a little bit different.
Yes, extremely. But we're nothing if not adaptable these days. Great, okay. Well, thanks for that explanation. That was really interesting.
Broadcast Amsterdam.
Broadcast Amsterdam, your local radio station, 24/7 and on demand. Or on broadcastamsterdam.nl.